what did WTO Ministerial Conference 13 dialogue স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি. As you know that the Ministerial Conference, 13 Ministerial Conference just concluded, and it was held in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, from 26th February to 2nd March this year. So this ministerial, in fact, WTO's all ministerial conferences are very important for Bangladesh. It has a lot of implications. And as you know that the Doha round negotiations, which had started in 2001, aimed for negotiations on a number of areas, including market access for non-agricultural products, agriculture negotiation, then services, trade-related intellectual property rights, fisheries subsidies, and many others. And new issues have been added as we are going along with this ministerial, because the Doha round negotiations are yet to be completed. So this ministerial conference has been even more important for Bangladesh, because as you can see from the name, that we are looking at this ministerial conference for Bangladesh's perspective, particularly in view of Bangladesh's imminent graduation from the least developed country categories. As you know that Bangladesh is set to graduate from the LDC category by 2026. So therefore, the graduation, particularly smooth graduation issue, is very, very important, and WTO measures, and particularly LDC package, has a particular relevance for Bangladesh, because it has direct impact, which you will hear from the presentation in detail. Besides, as you know that in this ministerial, a number of other issues were also discussed, and not necessarily the outcome has been positive, particularly the fisheries subsidies, then WTO reform agenda, agriculture, particularly the food stock, from the views of food stock and food supply, and also e-commerce and development agenda for the LDCs and TRIPS waiver. Besides, there were many other sub-themes which were discussed. But on fisheries negotiation, agriculture, there were not any advancement, improvement, or any result, but there was some LDC related packages, but that was not also very in line with the demands of the LDCs. Besides that, the issue of reform, WTO reform, has been pronounced, and some measures have been taken, but that also not fully according to the demand of the LDCs. There were also discussions on e-commerce and TRIPS, where Bangladesh has active interest in those. So we will listen to the presentation which has been prepared by CPD. In fact, from CPD, we were, some of my colleagues, myself and Professor Mustafizur Rahman were there also, but not, I mean, that doesn't mean much, because we are part of the non-government organization delegations, but there, from Bangladesh also, the government delegations were there. Our State Minister for Commerce, he, and along with other members, there was a delegation from the government, so which delegation took part actively in the negotiations. So in today's dialogue, so we will shed light on some of the negotiations which had happened this time, and going forward, what Bangladesh needs to do in the coming years, because as you know that every 2 years this WTO Ministerial Conference happens, and in 2026, end of 2026, Bangladesh will graduate. So how much we will get another opportunity, that is a opportunity to prepare and also receive some positive outcomes from the next WTO ministerial, that's a bit uncertain. But having said that, as I have mentioned, that today's presentation will reflect all of these issues. And on behalf of CPD, Professor Mustafizur Rahman, who is a distinguished fellow of CPD, he will make a presentation. But apart from that, we have a very distinguished panelist and some special guests here who will reflect on the outcome of the MC13 and share their insights. We are very pleased to have the State Minister for Commerce, Mr. Ahsanul Islam T2 MP. He will join us anytime soon. And we also have the special guest, Mr. Tapun Kanti Ghosh, who is the Senior Secretary at the Ministry of Commerce, Government of Bangladesh. He's also on his way. We have special commentator, Dr. Devopriya Bhattacharya, Distinguished Fellow CPD. We have other panelists amongst with us also. Now we have Ms. Firdosara Begum, Chief Executive Officer, Bangladesh Initiative Leading Development, BUILD. As you know, then Mr. Mohammad Hatem, who is the Executive President of Bangladesh Knitwear Manufacturers and Exporters Association. He will also join us. And we also have another panelist, Mr. Sadat Almas-Kabir, panel advisor, BCCI, and CEO of Metronet Bangladesh Limited. He will also join us anytime soon. We are very pleased that in this research, FES, Bangladesh, they have FES in fact, has been our collab partner in this initiative. And on behalf of FES, Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung, FES Bangladesh, Mr. Richard Kaniewski, who is the interim resident representative. He is also here. Thank you for joining us. And also in front of me, I can see many distinguished guests are here. Thank you very much once again for sparing your time and joining us this afternoon. So with this, I would like to request Professor Mustafizur Rahman to make his presentation. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I would like to now request Mr. Richard Kaniewski, who is the interim resident representative of FES Bangladesh, to make his welcome remark. Your choice, yeah.
So let's see if it functions, but I guess so. Wonderful. Assalamu alaikum. And it's a pleasure for me being here in my new capacity as head of FES here in Bangladesh. I mean, it's my second day in the country, so it's great having the opportunity to sit on such a wonderful panel. Such a wonderful panel, and as well having the opportunity to discuss this important topic. So, of course, dear Mr. Senior Secretary Tapan Kanti Ghosh, dear Madam Chair, thank you so much. Very dear friend of FES, Professor Mustafiz, and of course, estimated guests and panelists. It's my distinct honor to welcome you to this event organized by CPD and Friedrich-Ebert Foundation. With great pleasure, I'm looking forward to this dialogue focused on exploring the outcomes of the 13th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization and its implications for Bangladesh's graduation from least developed countries. We stand, from my point of view, at a pivotal moment in the global trade landscape, and it is crucial for all of us to examine how these developments will shape the future of Bangladesh and its economic prospects. This transition, from my point of view, represents a significant milestone for your nation, marking a shift towards greater economic self-reliance and resilience. However, it also comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities, which must be carefully navigated to ensure a smooth and successful transition. As a nation on the brink of transitioning out of the category of least developed countries, Bangladesh stands to gain immensely from the outcome of WTO-MC13. Throughout history, Bangladesh has demonstrated remarkable resilience and determination in overcoming various challenges to emerge as a vibrant player in the global economy. And from its robust garment industry to its burgeoning technology sector, Bangladesh has proven its ability to compete on the world stage. However, the journey towards economic development is not without its hurdles, as you all know. The transition from a least developed country status brings with it a unique set of opportunities and as well challenges. It requires strategic planning, investment in infrastructure, and a conducive policy environment to ensure sustainable growth and prosperity for all segments of society. Against this backdrop, WTO MC13 presents an unparalleled opportunity for Bangladesh to solidify its position in the global marketplace. As we gather here today, it is imperative that we delve deeper into the outcomes of WTO MC13 and examine how they align with Bangladesh's development priorities. From enhancing market access for goods and services to address the challenges posed by climate change, there is much to discuss and to deliberate upon. Furthermore, we must also explore avenues for collaboration and partnership with international counterparts to leverage the opportunities presented. As Bangladesh prepares to gratitude from LCD status, it is essentially to strengthen the engagement with the international community, foreign strategic partnerships, and alliances to support development objectives. Whether through bilateral trade agreements, regional initiatives, or multilateral cooperation, collaboration will be one key to navigate the complexities of the global trade landscape and advancing Bangladesh's interests on the world stage. I wish you a very fruitful discussion today. I'm really looking forward to this discussion and to all, I would say, the insights we will hear afterwards. Thank you very much for listening, and Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard, for those valuable insights. Now, so I'm very happy to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Tapun Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Government of Bangladesh. So I think it's now time to invite Professor Mustafizur Rahman to make his presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Richard, for those welcome remarks. Honorable special guest, Mr. Tapun Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, and our distinguished panelist, Ms. Ferdowsara Begum, my dear friend, Dr. Devopriya Bhattacharya, who will make special remarks. And I must say that I'm very happy to have him with us. He was at the Geneva mission of Bangladesh as ambassador, and also currently he is working as a member of the CDP, the Committee for Development Policy, which recommends these developed countries to whether they will graduate, when they will graduate. So very happy to have him here. Distinguished audience, excellencies, dear friends. Let me first of all register our deep appreciation for your kind presence this afternoon. The presentation that I'm going to make, I will be making it on the basis of a study that we are carrying out a CPD, and WTO-MC13 stance assessment of outcomes and required actions from the perspectives of Bangladesh. This is a study which we are carrying out in collaboration with FES, Bangladesh office, and we are very happy to have FES as our partner. This study was carried out by myself and my colleague, Anika Tasnim Orpita. Please stand up. Yes, Orpita did an excellent job in terms of helping me in doing this work. I myself, as Dr. Famida mentioned, I was also at MC13 in Abu Dhabi, and I must say that the Honorable State Minister, who will be joining us, did a splendid job in terms of advancing our interests as a graduating LDC in Abu Dhabi. And in fact, he personally also met with me, and he and his team, which included also obviously the Senior Secretary of Ministry of Commerce and our ambassador in Geneva, and his team also, we had a discussion several times. I think that was also an opportunity for the civil society to partner with the government delegation, and I would like to appreciate their approach to the whole discussion at MC13, that it is just not government, but also it is the civil society and the private sector, and it's a whole of society approach. My presentation is divided into 4 parts. First, the backdrop of the MC13 in Abu Dhabi, the outcomes and the graduating LDCs, then an assessment with regard to the outcome from the Bangladesh perspective as a graduating LDC, and the attendant tasks ahead for us. In the context of the background, I must say that as a graduating LDC, there were certain factors which we had to keep in mind. First of all, the graduating LDCs are recovering, like Bangladesh, are recovering from the pandemic's adverse impacts. The negative impacts of the Russia-Ukraine war on our prices, on our economy, on our macroeconomic management, all these are also very important. We also see that many of the 15 graduating LDCs are facing a lot of difficulties. 6 LDCs are graduating, like they have a fixed timeline, like Bangladesh. And 4 of the LDCs which were supposed to be graduating, 2 have been put in the abeyance. I think Dr. Deopriyo, as a member of the CDP, will be able to enlighten us. Even amongst the 6 graduating LDCs which were in the cohort of Bangladesh, 1, I think, Angola, has seen its fortunes reversed in the recent times. So that is one issue that we have to keep in mind, the challenges that the graduating LDCs are facing at this stage when they are to be graduating. The rising protectionism we have seen during the pandemic, during the Russia-Ukraine war and its aftermath, that the number of trade restrictive measures has outpaced the number of trade facilitating and trade liberalizing measures. So this is one of the reports of the WTO which has mentioned. So this is, I think, very important to keep in mind, because WTO is about liberalizing, but we see that many of the developed countries are also not pursuing some of those objectives. MC12 decision was that there will be specific and concrete actions in support of graduating LDCs. So, and in that context, after the MC12, which took place in 2022, we see that LDCs had submitted a number of proposals in support of graduation. So it was submitted on behalf of the LDC group in the WTO by Chad, and it included several demands or several requests, as you can interpret. One was for extending preferential market access it started with 12 years, then it came down to 6 to 9 years, and then it came down to no particular time frame. But there was a submission on behalf of the on behalf of the LDCs, for the graduating LDCs to be extended preferential market access. There was also another submission which is called Annex 2, where other forms of support, TRIPS waiver to be extended. subsidies to be extended, so those type of provisions were also included in Annex 2. So that was the submission that was made. And also there was submission to the Committee Council on Trade in Goods. So there were several submissions by the LDCs in order to support sustainable graduation of the graduating LDCs. But during the discussions between MC12 and MC13 in Abu Dhabi, we saw there were a number of elements which were on the discussion table: fisheries subsidies, e-commerce, electronic commerce, the peace clause concerning the public stockholding, which means that there should not be any inclusion in the subsidies estimates if it is given for government procurement. So that there was a peace clause. So the discussion was to have the peace clause extended forever, meaning that if the subsidies are given to government procurement, not to count it as subsidies, to count it as green subsidies. So that was one. We also saw during this interim period rise of the plurilateral initiatives, meaning that there were a number of negotiations which were outside of the ambit of the WTO formal process of negotiation, but certain countries, interested countries, holding negotiations on certain discussions on certain areas. So there was rise of those type of discussions, and some of the LDCs were participating, some were not participating. Bangladesh was not participating, India was not participating, but China was very much involved in the plurilaterals. And I will discuss on that later. So Bangladesh and other LDCs, when they went for MC13, they had concrete interests in mind. As I said, the extension of the duty-free, quota-free market access. So that was already, there was a General Council discussion on that, and there was a resolution also. So that was endorsed at MC13, which was important. Bangladesh's concerns are more than others because Bangladesh has been able to take advantage of the various international support mechanisms, support measures more than others. And WTO Secretariat estimates show that if the preferential market access is removed, then 90% of the adverse impacts will be on Bangladesh. So that gives an idea about that we had enjoyed it the most, taken advantage of the market access, most preferential market access, and we have the most to lose. So obviously, amongst the LDCs which are supposed to graduate in the foreseeable future, Bangladesh's interest in the context of the MC13 was obviously more than many others. Now, this had a recognition in the various international fora and discussions, and we know that the UN resolution mentioned that graduation is not a destination but a milestone, meaning that graduating LDCs will have to be supported for their sustainable and irreversible graduation. So that was a UN decision, and we have seen UN interagency task force which was set up. We have seen that there were promise of support in the SDGs also, SDG 17 global partnership. You will see even quantitative measurable indicators like raising the share of the LDCs in the global exports by 100%, meaning from 1% to 2%. So those type of ambitions, 2022, and this is 2024, and we were nowhere there. From 1%, it has risen to 1.2%. So that is the backdrop. The backdrop was also the Doha Program of Action for the LDCs. You know that LDC Summit is the highest level. Our Honorable Prime Minister participated in Doha. So it takes place every 10 years. So Doha Summit, which took place in March 2023, they also came up with resolution that the graduating LDCs will be supported through concrete measures. So that was at the highest level. Whether the trade ministers were able to really um, respond to that, that is what we will be discussing. We also saw that Sustainable Graduation Support Facility, IGRADE, was also set up, and CDP played a very important role with regard to that. Now, if we look at some of the issues of Bangladesh concern, I said that Annex 1 and Annex 2 were important for us. In the context of fisheries subsidies, there was a bracket in the text for how many years graduating LDCs will be able to provide subsidies. There was also de minimis subsidy requirement of 0.8% of the global fisheries. Bangladesh exceeded that. So there were some concern. There were also some concern with regard to, as I said, e-commerce and public stock holding. And also there was a G90 submission for the developing countries to make the special and differential treatment actionable. So that was that. Now, if we look at the outcome, we see that the MC13 endorsed the General Council decision with regard to DFQF, and they said that it will. The decision said that it will be extended. There is no timeline, which means that Bangladesh, when they will be negotiating or discussing with our partners, we can refer to the decision. There is no timeline that it is 3 years or 5 years. So this is one good thing. The other bad thing I would say is that the decision is that only those countries which have LDC scheme, they will have the extension. They were requested to give the extension. US doesn't have any LDC scheme, so US remains outside of the ambit of this decision. It was also mentioned that due restraint will be applied when graduating LDCs are taken to dispute settlement. So the other decision with regard to Annex 2 was that there will be training, assistance, capacity building support to graduating LDCs, but there are other 8 provisions in Annex 2 which there was no decision with regard to that. With regard to e-commerce, there was a lot of discussion, but at the end of the day, there was no particular. The decision was that it will end. The moratorium, as you know, is there since 1998. So it will end on 31st of March 2026, or MC14 in Cameroon, whichever is earlier. So that's one. The other decision was with regard to WTO reforms. There was no concrete decision. It was mentioned that they will continue the discussion, and the objective is to have some progress towards the end of 2024. So no concrete decision. With regard to special and differential treatment, with regard to sanitary and phytosanitary measures and technical barriers to trade, there was no concrete decision, but this discussion will continue, and there will be a report at MC14. With regard to services rules, it's interesting that it was a plurilateral. Some countries, 72 countries, they discussed, and then it was multilateralized, which means that that Bangladesh should, I think, since the senior secretary is here, Bangladesh should actively participate in the plurilaterals. Otherwise, you are out of the discussion room, and it may be brought into the WTO and multilateralized. Then we don't have any say in the rules of the game. With regard to fisheries subsidies, I said that there was no discussion, no decision, because India's position of 25 years of waiving of the subsidies was not accepted by other countries. With regard to peace clause, also not counting the government procurement subsidies, also there was no concrete decision. Other countries said that it will have to be part of the discussion on agriculture, not any separate discussion. So as I was mentioning, there are many plurilaterals in which some of the LDCs are participating. Investment facilitation for development, which is championed by China, 25 LDCs are participating. And the total number, I think, is more than 120, 124, I think. So that an assessment from our part, that there was a decision, although the ministerial was extended by 1 day, that's good for weaker countries. A rules-based system is always good, we think, and that's why our interest in the WTO. The decision on the preferential market access opens the window for discussion with our bilateral partners, and Bangladesh is already beyond EU and the UK. Bangladesh is now discussing with Canada, with other countries, China, India. With regard to Annex 2, as I said, not much progress, so nothing to tell. We had a demand that the TRIPS waiver should be extended by certain period. There was no, we said that it should be extended till the time it is there for the LDCs, but there was no discussion. Decision with regard to that. With regard to fisheries subsidies also, there was no decision, but we have an interest, as I said, on the de minimis of 0.8 and the bracket, how many years we will be allowed. So that is something. Our assessment is that MC13 failed to reflect the expectations, although some may say that why the expectations were there, but it's incremental. We know WTO negotiations, and we will have to continue. One reason, I think that we, in going forward, we will have to have 3 identities: as LDC, as graduating LDC, and as a future developing country. So we will have to remain engaged as an LDC, because there is no group called graduating LDCs in the WTO. There is only group of LDCs, developing countries and developed countries. So we have to have the solidarity of the LDCs in order to get something as a graduating LDC. But there is, as I said, some issues with regard to graduating LDCs, the Annex 1 and Annex 2. And also, we will now have to, in fact, participate with the lens of developing country. So it is very important to remain engaged in the discussions, in all discussions, in plurilateral, within the WTO mandate, in Geneva, because as I said, our future beyond 2026, beyond 2029 is as a developing country. So any provision that is negotiated, special and differential treatment or obligations, all these will be important for us. So it is very important. And also Bangladesh, as a leading country within the LDC group, will have to also pursue it on behalf of other graduating LDCs. The remaining elements which have been in the decision, TRIPS waiver, there will be discussion. WTO reforms, there will be discussion. Dispute settlement body, which is inactive almost, there will be discussion. There will be discussion also on fisheries. I think at MC14, we will have a discussion on the fisheries. So whether we can embed our flexibilities as a graduating LDC beyond graduation, that will be very, very important. And also raising the de minimis, or not allowing, for example, Hilsha to be counted as a marine fishery. That is also very important. So we will have to remain engaged in the discussions on the agriculture reforms, the peace stockholding. So there will be variable geometry of interests. In investment, we will have to participate where China is there in the investment facilitation, plurilateral. On the other hand, in the public stockholding, we have interest alongside with India. So e-commerce, Bangladesh has both offensive interest and a defensive interest. We have calculated at CPD that Bangladesh will lose about $40 million if the e-commerce customs duties are imposed. But on the other hand, we also export a lot. So we have offensive interest also. So our stance will have to be a bit, I think, nuanced. With regard to the S&D provisions for the developing countries, let us recall that out of the 183 special and differential treatment clauses, 25 are LDC specific. The other 158 are for the developing countries. So in this discussion, Bangladesh will need to be very closely engaged. But we will not have the preferential treatment for most of the markets beyond 2029, even if we negotiate with China, with India, with Canada, with Japan. So we need to get ready for the preference free regime of trade. So there, productivity enhancement, skills upgradation, translating our competitive advantages into competitive advantages, these will be important. But at the same time, these negotiations will have to take place on the basis of mostly reciprocity, or at best less than full reciprocity. So we will have to be ready to undertake our own reforms as well. We will have to give market access to our partners as well. So these are very difficult policy decisions, but we will have to take evidence-based decisions, strengthening our negotiating power, participating with data and information, taking the private sector and the civil society along with it. These will become very important. In negotiations, countries get not what they deserve, but what they negotiate. So this is very important, that Bangladesh pursue various bilateral discussions, but this will also entail that there will be a lot of other demands, like if you want to get market access, then there will be demand with regard to environmental sustainability, gender empowerment, good governance, CO2 emission. All these will come. Now no one takes us to the dispute settlement body. Now no one takes us to task. But beyond graduation, obviously these will become not only for preferential market access, for general market access, these will become very important. So this is the last slide is that for the graduating LDCs, there are some provisions within the WTO system. And for example, enhanced integrated finance for the LDCs. LDC climate fund operated by the Global Environmental Facility. All these have some years of extended support for graduating LDCs after graduation, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. So we must take advantage of what is already there as we discuss what we can get. And the last point is that, yes, we appreciate that the government has set up a high-level committee for sustainable graduation. There are 7 subcommittees. They have come up with very concrete recommendations. Now is the time. We have another 3 years or another 5 years. Now is the time to really implement those concrete recommendations which are coming up from those subcommittees. And if that can be done, we know that it is also an opportunity. It is an opportunity to make our economy more productive, more efficient. It's branding of Bangladesh as a destination for investment. So now the government has taken many initiatives, infrastructure and transport connectivity. So triangulation of transport connectivity, trade connectivity, investment connectivity, that's how we will have to take our country forward, our economy forward, so that we can have a sustainable graduation with momentum and irreversible graduation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mustafizur Rahman. I'm sorry to give you, warning of the time, because I know this is a very extensive subject and there's a lot of time. It needs a lot of time to discuss, actually. But I recognize the presence of many of you who are also interested to take part in these discussions, apart from our distinguished panelists here. So as you have heard from Professor Mustafizur Rahman's presentation, that Bangladesh is offensive interests are in many cases. And also he highlighted the most important part of this, that, after graduation, how Bangladesh should position and strategize itself in taking part in the global or multilateral trading system, and also how Bangladesh should prepare within the domain of its domestic policies. One important aspect is that as an LDC, not only we have the privilege or advantages of having an access to the markets of the developed countries and to some developing countries also, at a duty-free, quota-free rate, but also we undertake or we implement some of the policies which are on a non-reciprocal basis. For example, we he towards the in the end of his presentation, he mentioned about some of the reforms within the domestic domain. One important reform would require in the areas of tariff and duty structure. As an LDC, we are exempt from reciprocity, and then as we see that our tax regime is also quite dependent on the indirect taxes and also import duties. As an LDC, we don't, we are not obliged to follow what is applicable for the developing countries. But once we graduate, we will not have those advantages. So that what does it imply? It implies that we really have to rely on our direct taxation, and we have to improve upon institutional strengthening is needed, and also in terms of other areas. For example, many other issues which are discussed at the WTO are applicable. One important one I would like to emphasize, though WTO members are of different opinions with regard to the climate issues, because some members have mentioned that we should not burden the discussion because it's already already a full lot of the issues are already there, it's already crowded, and there are other platforms, for example, even FCC, COP, and so those are the areas where these issues are to be discussed. Similarly, in case of other areas as well. However, if we just look at issues separately, not in a holistic manner, and also if the relevant organizations do not work in tandem coherently, then the chances of getting success in those areas is very limited. And so, in fact, the WTO has very much linked with the climate and trade issues, and in the Doha round, I think it has, for the first time, prominently. Earlier also, in trade issues, the environmental issues have come, but in the Doha round, prominently trade and environmental issues are mentioned. And particularly when you're talking about Bangladesh's graduation, LDC's graduation, and at the global level, when there is this issue of climate compliant and net zero, then Bangladesh, as a partner of the global trade regime, has also have to comply with those. But for complying various climate related obligations, Bangladesh need technology. And as you know that as an LDC, the TRIPS agreement has very much relevance, and under TRIPS agreement, clause 66.2 talks about technology transfer, but that has not happened so much. Now we are at a point where we also need technology, not only for pharmaceuticals, not only for other areas, but also climate technology will be very important. How after graduation Bangladesh is going to tackle those are also important issues. I just mentioned one example because this is one area where I work exclusively, but there are many other areas. This is just an example. So with this, I think now it's time to request our distinguished panelists. Unfortunately, we do not have the other two panelists who have an urgent meeting actually. So right now, I would like to request Ms. Ferdowsara Begum, who is the Chief Executive Officer of BUILD, to make her remarks.
Thank you, Chair. I think good afternoon, distinguished guests in the dais. Our Senior Secretary Commerce, Mr. Tapon Kanti Ghosh, is also there. And I had taken the chance and the liberty to present my speeches staying from the table. And I had taken the permission from the organizer. So first of all, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to CPD and FES also, and the Ministry of Commerce for organizing such an excellent dialogue, because this has given us an opportunity to understand what MC13 has delivered for us, specifically when Bangladesh is at the stage of the graduation. And so far we have seen that there are only 32 months remaining to be graduated. So the time is very, very short for us. And what we have seen, and you have also heard from the presentation of Dr. Mustafi's very elaborated presentation. And it is very difficult to cover all these MC13 issues in such a single presentation, because there are so many issues, so many submissions, and so many circulars have been throughout this whole 5 days duration, and also throughout the whole commencement of the ministerial conference. So what we have seen that on March 2, there was a declaration, and which has got 23 points, a number of annexures also. And Keynote has been able to deliver some of these very important issues. A 8-member strong delegation from Bangladesh participated under the leadership of our State Minister of Commerce, as I have seen. But it is very difficult that the representatives of 166 countries or 164 countries were there. So it is very tough to touch all these issues, but they tried their best. So on behalf of the organizer and this dialogue, we would like to extend sincere thanks to them. The one most important point that attracted my eyes is, as you have seen, that the number 11, there is a mention that WTO support for the smooth transition for graduation. This is very important for Bangladesh, as we know that 16 LDCs countries are waiting for graduation. And out of these 26 countries are waiting for 26 countries, and out of these 19 countries, 26 LDC countries, 19 are member of the WTO. So WTO has got also responsibilities for the smooth transition of these to be graduated LDCs. And at the same time, we have seen, and presenter has also mentioned regarding the SDGs and some other issues, and UNCTAD report has also mentioned, published in 2023, that leaving no one behind. This is one of the, I think, primary issues for the SDGs, achieving the SDGs goal. And one very important point I would like to add here is that the political consideration of the MC13 was very important. What we have found is that there was a very small room for compromise. And because of the political consideration, 60 countries will have their election in the year 2024. Not only that, India is also going to are not willing to take the risk because of their farmers' interest. And you know that USA is also going to have their election soon. So what has been agreed from the WTO MC13 Ministerial, that has already been touched upon, but let me just allow to raise some of the important issues. Two, accession. We have seen the 2 countries have got their accession into the WTO. This is one of the important messages for us. And also the domestic services has been included in one of the circular, and there will be a need for domestic regulation, very transparent, and information, specific information in this regard. I will tell you a bit under for these domestic regulations. There are some unresolved, maximum unresolved issues. Public stockholding, keynote speaker has already mentioned. Interesting discussion, I think, was going on throughout the whole ministerial conference. We have all the chance of going through these issues, because these have been posted through the website, and they are very, very sincere in posting the updated information there. Interestingly, the minister from Thailand, he was telling that the subsidies that were given by India for the farmers for procuring the rice, for about 40% of them are exported later. Very interesting. So, and this has been argued by them and ministerial conference. I think this type of small nitty-gritty issues have come up throughout the discussion. And we have seen the e-commerce issues, the extension of the moratorium up to March 35, 2026. This has got some implication in regard to Bangladesh case. If we just would like to touch upon the findings, what we can tell is that, as the Professor Mustafizur Rahman has already mentioned, that plurilateral discussion or agreements and the JSI, that is joint statement initiatives, are getting momentum. And he very rightly recommended that Bangladesh would also need to take care of these issues. But at the same time, what we have seen is that most of the, I think, plurilateral issues which are supposed to be, I think, taken care. Say, I would like to tell about the IFT, investment facilitation for development, and some other issues also that has not been agreed, and it has been delayed, and sometimes we have seen that different types of information have come up in a different way. Interestingly, new dispute settlement system, which was discussed a lot, and the WTO reforms issues have been discussed. The stalemate in the two-tier WTO dispute settlement process continues, and MC3 would not lay out any concrete path forward for the restoration of the appellate mechanism. This was one of the much debated and much discussed issues in the MC13. So WTO reform has been made still questionable. So Bangladesh has a lot of stake in that respect, but I think we need to take care of these issues. There are some encouraging news on the development aspects as a step towards the commitment to spatial and differential, I think, treatment, even though communicated a symbolic message of development only. However, we need to take our full preparation in that respect. So it is now worrisome that the legacy issues at the WTO remain unresolved, and the vicious circle, that is, we may need many more ministerial conference to resolve these issues. So let me just allow to address some of the issues from the point of view of the private sector. Number one point is the smooth, I think, transition and WTO. Our keynote speaker has already mentioned about the Annex 1 and Annex 2 issues, followed by the Appendix 1 and Appendix 2 of the December 6, 2022 communication of the General Council is important. Communication on behalf of the DGBT on behalf of LDCs is also important. So more concentrated work is required. In that respect, I would like to add in the articles of the trade facilitations 20.2 and 3, that is understanding the rules and regulations of the DSB. We have received 3 years grace period for the preferential tariff treatment for LDCs, as you all know about it, and LDCs, and within the, I think for Bangladesh, it is very crucial for next 5 years to resolve some more and some other issues. Export subsidies and TRIPS extension, this is another listed SNDT treatment such as Article 27.2 of LDC exemption for prohibition of export subsidies. We need to do a lot of work in that respect. And as our chair has already mentioned in regard to the Article 66 of the TRIPS agreement and Article 66.2 of the TRIPS agreement in regard to the technology transfer. As you are all aware that Bangladesh is one of the very good manufacturer of the pharmaceuticals sector and the largest, I think, among the LDCs. So we need to continue our effort how to protect and how to, I think, continue with these sectors so that we can extend some support for the private sector in that respect. And what we have seen, there are a number of changes are coming up. As we have seen that once there were chemical drugs popular, but nowadays biosimilar and biotech technologies are coming up. So it is very difficult for reverse engineering because the requirement of molecules are much larger for these biotech and biosimilar product. And as you all know that these type of I think biosimilar or biotech drugs, it needs living animals such as bloods, bacteria, and so many things. So reverse engineering is also very difficult. We need to think of it so that pharmaceuticals companies can get some better treatment. But the tasks are very arduous, but we need to do a lot for these issues. Specifically, strong research is required. Research and research. R&D is at the moment is not that much significant in our country. We need to establish our industry academia collaboration and technology transfer institution in the in the country, so that industry academia can collaborate and they can exchange their I think resources each other, and the private sector can also be ready to pay for this. So this is one of the issues. Trade facilitation agreement is another issue. There is an early warning system, that is Article 5, meaning that transfer of transfer of this trade facilitation agreement issues from category B to category C, and sometimes from C to B. So these are the issues is very important. We need to consider and take care of these issues. Agreement on fisheries subsidies has already been mentioned by the keynote speaker. Article 8 footnote 13. As per this footnote, there is, I think, a very specific issues are there that every 4 years LDCs need to report. And there is the de minimis issues has also been mentioned by the keynote speaker, that is 0.8%, which is one of the concern for the Bangladesh. We need to take care of for these issues, and we need to work a lot in that respect. I believe Ministry of Commerce has already started working in that respect, but we need to work hard in that in these issues. And I think e-commerce issues. As a private sector representative, I have had a long discussion with the private sectors. So 2 years moratorium, extension of the moratorium is a bit good news for the private sector, but still I believe that there is a lot more issues to be done there. Some startup are coming up. I believe the large companies also would need to do a lot in that respect. And country-wise, product-wise, I think plan has to be developed, and country-to-country agreement we need to do so that we can continue with these e-commerce issues there, which are blooming. A number of skilled, I think, workers, I think, in the meantime, has developed their expertise in that respect. Trade and environment issues has also been dealt by the keynote speaker. G90 submission is there. Those are covering about 75% of the WTO members. So this is one of the very vital issues. And I believe there are 10 specific agreement on the SNDTT issues. And these are all very important issues, streams related issues, balance of payment, SPS and TBT issues are there. So I think there are a lot more work to be done for the country like Bangladesh. We need to establish our own brand and own, I think, specific products. In that respect, I believe the jute industry, jute sector can be a good, I think we can plan for this and how to brand Bangladesh by having or I think extending research for this sector to develop new and innovative products in that sector. Not only that, I would like to just give another very important example. Why not rickshaw in our country? We can brand it by simply modernizing this type of product. So we need to identify this type of products. We have lots of handicrafts issues also, which are our own resources. We need to bring and develop these, I think, sectors and these products. Last but not the least, service trade. Bangladesh has a target for service for export trade in the year 2023-24. The amount is about $62 billion US, and of which $10 billion is for the service sector. We have to have more specific information and transparency in that respect, because we do not have enough information in the service sector in our country. Last but not the least, South Asia led one submission was there. Bangladesh was a party of it. This was on the business transfer cost of the remittance. This is one of the important issues, even though it was a for informal discussion, not very well discussed within the ministerial, MC3 ministerial, but this can come up. Bangladesh can be benefited out of this. Two specific, I think, recommendation from my side. We need to establish our own national agenda so that we can move ahead. We have seen India has got their specific national agenda, and they, throughout the whole MC13, they try to explore these issues. So we need to have our national agenda. Last but not the least, bilateral relation establishment is very important. And what we can tell, as the ministry representative is there, we have a very rich diaspora. I think these we can utilize the resources of this diaspora staying and in a different countries in the world. With this, I would like to thank you all for patient hearing.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Firdosara Begum, for your really excellent discussion, quite detailed. So I think now it's time to open the floor. We are behind the schedule. So you have taken three people's time, so you're fortunate to, but anyway, that was an excellent presentation. So I will open the floor for 20 minutes or so. I see a lot of distinguished guests. There are ambassador from China, friends from GIZ, the US Embassy, and many others, Japan Embassy, Australian High Commission, Denmark, and all. So there's a lot of interest, not only among Bangladeshis, but also our development partners, I would say. So if you have any short comments or any questions, please do so, but it's for 2 minutes only. Yes, please, you start. I see, okay. Just
Hello.
we are very happy to welcome the Honorable State Minister for Commerce, Mr. Ahsanul Islam T2 MP. He has joined. We know that the Ramadan is starting tomorrow, so you can imagine how busy he is to, to look after the prices, actually, which is really so. And he has been doing very, sincerely since his assumption of the position. So thank you. Even then, you have managed to come here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our Honorable State Minister, Mr. Ahsanul Islam T2, he is with us. My comment is that we can see total outcomes 23. And there are 7 decisions under 23 declaration. And just I will be very brief. Number one decision is work program on small economies. So hardly we can see action word. It's a general statement. This is my comment. Uh, Decision two, WTO smooth transition support measures in favor of countries graduated from the. So I have two comments here. One is again 3 years extension. WTO has given to the members country graduating from LDC. But the critical point is that they have no mentioned anything about the market access, so which you are struggling. In October 2023, the WTO as a central platform, it's a kind of diplomatic avoidance. They have shifted it to the countries who are providing GSP. They will decide for their smooth transition. So again, there are three decisions, a very poor decision to me. And the number three, Annex 7, very important. I think we need to fight, we need to struggle, we need to raise our voice for changing the threshold. The GNI threshold as present, I think $1,000. So if the threshold is changed, then we'll get the opportunity to be included in the 7, Schedule 7. Number three, strengthening regulatory cooperation to reduce technical barriers to trade. Again, general statement. I'm not going to make any comment. Very general statement. No decision. I can find very hardly any decision. Then 4, decision 4, declaration on the precise, effective, and operational implementation of the special and differential treatment provision of the agreement. Senator, I think SPS and TBT. Just recently, I have gone through the agreements, 2 agreements, SPS and TBT. Most of our trades are being hampered or damaged because of SPS and TBT. A very general statement, very conflicting. I think these 2 agreements should be reformed or changed. This is my comment. And finally, I think, no, not finally, 5. Number 5, again, dispute settlement reform. The word they have used, we instruct officials to accelerate discussions. So this is not a decision. They are encouraging again discussions. Decision number 6. This is very ridiculous. The e-commerce issue is being deferred from 7th MC. It was held in 2009 in Geneva. So still every 2 years it is being deferred to another MC. So this is my observation. And finally, 7, TRIPS, still general statement to continue its examination. I'm not reading all the sentences. One of the sentences is to continue its examination, meaning no decision. The examination will continue. But what is the remedy? To me, I think we have, as Bangladesh, we have 3 officials there. Our ministry is here. Our think tank, we have a very rich think tank in Bangladesh. So I feel, we should raise our voice in the WTO. So it is not decisions; they are making general statements. So we need to raise our voice very strongly in WTO. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, former Commerce Secretary, for your valuable comments and observations. So, yeah, I would give him first and then Dr. Abid, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Special Guest, and distinguished panelists. Thank you so much. First, my thanks goes to Professor Mustafizur Rahman for a very nice presentation and details detailing the outcomes of the MC13. MC13 has been considered as one of the failed ministerial conference in the history of WTO, except one significant decision. One is for inclusion of two economies in the WTO forum. That is now it is 166, but most important decision is about graduating LDC decision. That is about extension of 3 years for dispute settlement provisions, Article 24. That is self-restraint and not going for concession cancellation and use of good offices. So this is the only significant. Other two decisions about the TBT, those are just to clarify the transparency and not making trade restrictive TBT among the nations. So those are not very significant. I would say only decision that is significant is for the graduating LDCs. But how far we have achieved through this decision, that may be a question. Annex 1 decision that was for preferential market access that was done in October 2023, though it was a best endeavor type decision, but it helped us to request other countries so that under this umbrella, so they can extend their market access for developing graduating LDCs. This request can also be made not only to the developed countries, but developing countries too. So because there is an umbrella agreement in the WTO, we can request China, India, and other developing countries too, as per that decision. That helped us a lot, I think. But what is the decision? 3-year extension in the dispute settlement and TRTA issues, technical assistance issues. These 3 years decision, extension indirectly give us a notion that any violation of any WTO rules may not be challenged in the dispute settlement body. But the text that mentioned in Article 24 of the DSU that said that the countries, developed countries, will remain their self-restrained position. They will not go for dispute settlement board. But in many countries, they have their domestic regulations. Suppose if I mention US Trade Act 1974, US Tariff Act 1930, in many texts, they have their unilateral power to sanction any country, to give punishment to any country, if any country violates any international agreement that USA or that country is a party to that. So these self-restraint may not work in every case. Suppose if it is intellectual property rights issues that we are concerned about, the pharmaceutical issues. So if any Bangladesh or any country violate the intellectual property rights issues, then either this self-restraint will work at that moment or not. That is a question. Another decision within at the bottom of that is a declaration came at this discussion about Annex 7 of SCM agreement, that's about subsidy in non-agricultural products, export subsidy. I believe that may not help Bangladesh because India has already been outstated from that list, Annex 7 list. Bangladesh is Bangladesh GDP per capita is more than now India or at par India. So there is a possibility that according to 1990 and constant Atlas method of World Bank, Bangladesh will no longer be a eligible country as Bangladesh's per capita GDP will cross $1,000. So it will not be a benefit. The most crucial issue was for Bangladesh during this ministerial or for the next ministerial is pharmaceutical issues about the intellectual property rights. Those important issue was not got much focused during the discussion. It was, I think, a matter of regret that it should get focused because UNCDP also conducted a study on it and found that it will impact use in the health sector of Bangladesh. So future focus should be specifically on that TRIPS issue, that how these intellectual property rights, at least those has been declared that 31st December of 2032. That can be enjoyed at least. If it is done, then it will help us, I think. Then comes other issues like um, those were failed issues, I think. One is the moratorium of e-commerce that has been extended for 2 years. It's a question that what should be our position. I believe that by next ministerial, moratorium will not continue. That is because this time it was specially requested by Amir of UAE. So otherwise, it was not being adopted. I see whenever we think of international market, our export market, we are scared of that after graduation, we'll lose our preferential market access in developed countries and some developing countries. But now we see that developed countries are scared that if moratorium is no longer there, their say electronically transmitted products, goods or services will face tariffs. Either this imposition of tariffs will help us or not, that should be discussed. I believe for our startups that we are discussing, suppose we are using Uber, we also at the same time use Pathao. Whichever we like to do it. Do we like our Pathao to be strengthened in terms of Uber, or we like Uber to be say flourishing in the market? If we focus on our local startups, then we have to think about our policy space, and that policy space can be achieved through imposition of tariffs and other restrictions. So more going not to continue moratorium will not be very threatening to us. It should be considered. Besides this, fisheries subsidy, one of the very important issues we are really scared about, that if fisheries subsidy agreement is approved by this ministerial, some very significant issues of interest will be overlooked. It was almost happening at the last minute negotiation for graduating LDCs. 3 years transition periods was given. So if it is given, it would be no use for us, because for developing countries, it would be India won for 25 years, wanted. If you think that it is 5 years, but then this 3-year transition will be useful to us. In fisheries subsidies, we have few concerns. First concern is that what is prohibited in this agreement? That is construction of new vessel, acquisition of new vessel, modernization of new vessel. We have not yet developed any industrial vessels. What already has been developed by developed countries, they are procuring fishes in the international territories. Bangladesh cannot do it. So when they have developed it and we are going to develop it, we are being prohibited that you cannot do it. So it's a disparity that we have to face, that how we can address these issues. Another issue is the developing graduating LDC issues, that 3 years period. And most important is the de minimis level, that 0.8%. If our marine case is more than 0.8% of the world case, then we'll will not be in the list of special and preferential treatment. Already we have crossed 0.85%. So our latest data, according to our latest data, we are not eligible for this group. But it has a debate among even those in the Department of Fisheries. They say that these statistics should be revised. It's not correctly stated. Especially our Hilsha fish is being considered as partially freshwater fish and partially marine water fish. So it should be clear that either this is freshwater fish or marine water fish. So if we can clearly state this data, so we can consider that either we will be in de minimis level 0.8% or not. So this 2 years period will help us to clarify these statistics, that's either we can position ourselves beyond the de minimis level. Another one is a small scale and artisanal fisheries. Those have already been stated that either it will be the territorial sea, that is 12 nautical mile area, or 200 nautical mile areas considered. Our small scale fisheries and artisanal fisheries already they cross the 12 mile territory. So if we cannot do it 200 mile nautical mile areas, then Bangladesh will be losing the special differential treatment. Some other areas that we have mentioned, service domestic trade regulation has already been in the multilateral agreement. Um, so it's a good news for service, though Bangladesh did not actively participate in SDR negotiation, but what have been taken, this is good for Bangladesh because transparency is there, so any country cannot impose any domestic regulation that restrict the service trade. But other areas Bangladesh need to focus. One issue is the discussion on transit in the TFA forum, Trade Facilitation Agreement forum. So this transit negotiation is going on. Bangladesh should focus on it very actively because it's an important issue. Some other JSI issues like investment facilitation for trade, for development. So it's an important issue already. 123 countries have joined. So we believe that it will come into the multilateral forum. So Bangladesh can focus on it so that Bangladesh's interest can be induced in this agreement. And if it comes into the multilateral forum, it should not be a service domestic regulation like. So participation of Bangladesh is necessary. And also JSI on e-commerce, though already e-commerce JSI has gone a certain distance that Bangladesh cannot cope with it, especially the data security and other issues. But I believe some other issues like environment protection, trade and environment, plastic pollution, already several countries has made up a position. I think fossil fuel is a subsidy restriction. So these are the areas where Bangladesh need to engage much more. I believe specialized personnel should be engaged there who will deal with those specific issues, not general issues. If they are engaged in these specialized issues like fossil fuel, plastic pollution, environment, and subsidies issues, so Bangladesh can, I think in future, can achieve much better result. And finally, I would say that not LDC, not developing, graduating LDC, Bangladesh should next time focus on developing countries much more so that the position of Bangladesh can be strengthened as a developing country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hafiz, the former head WTO Cell Minister of Commerce. And now I would like to request Dr. Abid, who was the former member of Tariff Commission, an expert on trade issues. Just one small request. I mean, I know you know a lot, all of you, but we have a time limitation because we have to finish by 5:30, and considering that tomorrow is Ramadan starting, so people may want to have some preparations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chief Guest and special guest and member of the podium. First of all, let me thank Mr. Rahman for excellent presentation. So I will just say few words within 2 minutes. I'll try. From an eye of a trade negotiator, and the question you pose: what did WTO-MC13 deliver for graduating LDCs? So we have here in the MC13 six decisions. 3 on the substance, 3 is on procedural issues, and their uniqueness, there is no reference to agriculture and fisheries. There is no reference, even in the ministerial declaration. And interestingly, 3 decisions, out of 3 decisions, 2 are routine matter. Electronic commerce, every ministerial we extended. But it is unique that it was extended and then says, no, there will be no extension. Another one is TRIPS non-violation. It is also a routine matter. Only decision we have on new substance, that is the LDC graduation. So we should thank the Bangladesh delegation to have the decision, because it's the only substantive decision. No other decision we have on substance. So that is we got from MC13, and we have to thank the Bangladesh delegation for this achievement. I know that Geneva mission worked hard on that, and even you see that on MC12, there was a paragraph on LDC graduation, but there is no direction. And out of that, Geneva Mission got something from LDC guys. That's why that is the achievement of Bangladesh delegation, and we could actually mobilize the LDCs. That's also our achievement. The other LDCs, and I know that I was in Geneva, so it was very difficult to mobilize other LDCs because they are not getting so much preferences like we get preferences. So that's why I like to thank the Bangladesh delegation to have this one. On the fisheries, I have one point, and I will ask maybe CPD can do it, and the Anna. Fishery subsidies. What is fishery subsidization? It is and I've been telling that, since, 2015 in the Geneva Mission also, in the negotiation also. It is the negotiation on the sustainability of fisheries sector. And why subsidy? Because subsidy actually harm the sustenance of fisheries. So whatever threshold you develop, it should be on sustainability. On the catch per square, say, kilometer of sea area. You see, I just, that one issue I know that, in Asia Pacific Ocean, per square kilometer, they catch, the countries catch 0.5 ton. And then in, Atlantic, they catch around 0.3 ton. And in Indian Ocean, where is a part of Bangladesh, it's only 10.1. So from that point, we have to see the sustainability, not in the share of catch in total trade. And I want to say that that I check the Bangladesh data also. You see you see that we cannot say below the baseline, actually upper the baseline, it is a territorial or inland water sea. What happened in 2015? Bangladesh actually refixed the baseline. It become closer to the land, and you see 56% of marine catch is Bangladesh is reported Hilsha. 56%. So it is difficult to actually. I'm not sure whether it's possible to live 4 years or 3 years, make it below. That's the marine catch. That's I'm not sure because our the baseline has come below, closer to the land. So that's why that I want your request to request you to look at that issue, that sustainability fisheries, and not the 8% threshold is not an issue of sustainability. Sustainability is the catch in per square kilometer. If we actually can propose that one and negotiate that one, that will be much better approach than now than the approach the WTO members are taking on the global marine catch. I mean, share of country in global marine catch. That is not the appropriate indicator of sustainability. I have many other issues, but I will not talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abid. I must say that you have rightly pointed out. In fact, CPD has worked on this issue many years back in collaboration with UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. We exactly did this work on fisheries subsidies and what are the implications. And there are several country case studies, and Bangladesh is one of them. And we have really shown that Bangladesh's yield, you can say, it's much lower than the sustainability curve. So we had done some quantitative analysis also, but that was a couple of years back. So maybe it's time for us to review it once again. And this is a very important and valid point for Bangladesh. As you know that Bangladesh's fisheries are mostly like small, fishers, artisanal fishers. So their livelihood depends on it. So. You wanted to say, yes, Mr. Munir, who is also the former head of WTO Cell, Minister of Commerce.
Thank you so much. Just few points I would like to flag in a few important points. If we divide the total activities of WTO in 3 segments, number 1 is the inbuilt mechanism. That is Bangladesh is the member of the WTO, and in 1995, one of the founder member. So after becoming the member, it is called inbuilt mechanism. That is that we sign the agreement and we are committed to follow the WTO rules and regulation. Number two is ongoing process, because during the negotiation, you have get a lot of negotiation and get a lot of benefit in duty-free quota-free market access TIPS agreement, and then lastly the TFA agreement. And last one is the new issues like e-commerce, and these are things. So we see in the ministerial declaration draft that there is a commitment that in 12th session it is commitment that WTO needs a reform. During the negotiation period, you see that there is a lot of anomalies in the agreements that needs to be reformed. Otherwise, the LDCs benefit will not be the, especially the LDC benefit will not be the meaningful, because LDCs need fair, transparent and inclusive and non-discriminatory. But we see that due to the old, this 30 years back, old this agreement, this needs to be reformed. So in this 13 MC13, we said that the ministerial that committed that they should go for reform, which was committed in the 12 MC12. So Bangladesh need to work in which area they need to develop some metrics, and they identify which area they need to negotiate for reform. That is number one. Number two is that the this minister conference, they underscore one important thing, that reliable global supply chain, because we have seen that during the COVID-19 and Ukraine war, there is a supply disrupted, and the LDCs countries are very much affected because we see the 80 countries so far, I know that food importing countries, which they are under big threat. So in this declaration, we have seen that they put emphasis on global supply chain for during the there is any crisis and disruption. So that is very important things. Another area I would like to discuss, already mentioned that there is a concern about the NFIDC list, which is very important, that Bangladesh, how Bangladesh keep their benefit in the NFIDC list until 2030. What is the strategy? How the 1990, the baseline, $1,000, and how can they make any strategy to keep their NFIDC list until 2030? That strategy should be found out. And another one is that already Mr. Hafiz mentioned that the transit policy, that is a new area, transit of committee and trade facilitation. So they especially mentioned the landlocked country. So I think that Bangladesh already take initiative to formulate the transit policy, which is very much important for connectivity in landlocked country with and the regional connectivity. So this is very important for us. So I think that we should work together on that issues. Women participation, empowerment, that's a very new area, and how to involve because you know that every country there is a 50% women at the workforce in our GDP and growth rate. So women, how to involve the women in trade, that is very important, because Bangladesh is only 4% women involved in the trade. Though their empowerment is better in some other countries, but women in trade, women in business is very negligible. So I think there's a lot of way to work together in the women empowerment in this issue. Small and medium enterprise, they discuss and they recognize that micro enterprise should work together in sustainable development. But for Bangladeshi case, we need some capacity building and safeguard measures. What kind of safeguard measures LDC can get? That is very important. Service preferential market access, you see already 10 years gone, there is a preferential market access, which was a Nairobi decision that the LDC country should get some, but that is not operational. There is a lot of problem in the preferential market access for service sector. So there is a lot of reform need that how to operationalize the service sector for LDC countries. Comprehensive crisis management, that disaster management, that is also a very important area, that because which is related to the GDP. So this declaration in 21, disaster management also in the very important area, that how to new risks are coming and how to disaster preparedness in this country. That is also very important things. I think these are the things that how we work together, and already dispute settlement area also discussed that how LDC can get benefit and how the panelist or the appellate body can work smoothly. There is a lot of negotiation going on. So I think that these are the issues that we should develop some roadmap. What we'll do in after next before the next ministerial meeting. What is the negotiating point we have to identify? So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Would you like to say anything? No? Yes, okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafiz, for very educative presentation. I will be confining only to these presentations. Just you said about the in one of your slides that 15 countries are at the various stage of graduation, and you also said in one of the slides that there should be some forum of these 15. But do you have? Is there already any initiative taken by these 15 countries? That's my question. And the last slide is very important slide that you identified in a table form that on graduating LDCs will be getting the support from different organizations and institutions. So at the level of CPD and also at the level of government, is there any forum already created to leverage this sort of advantages when you graduate from LDC? So is there an initiative already taken, or is there any plan from the government or from the research organization like CPD? So these are the two questions I want to place. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, short question to Professor Mustafiz Rahman for a short answer. For a short answer.
No, no, thank you. I think the last point I'd like to start with, which is that there are already inbuilt facilities within the WTO for the graduated LDCs beyond the time of graduation. So 3 years, 5 years, the various extended, the enhanced integrated framework, which is aid for trade or the technology bank. So there are opportunities to explore and exploit those for 5 years beyond graduation. So I think that obviously we should take note of that. I think obviously the Ministry of Commerce is aware of those, and they will try to enjoy those beyond graduation, which is inbuilt. With regard to any forum, I think it is the CDP which takes note of graduation. They recommend to the ECOSOC. ECOSOC recommends to the UN, and then UN takes the final decision. So I think that the CDP, the Committee for Development Policy, is taking care of that. They have their own strategy for sustainable LDC graduation, and they are doing that. For example, I think WTO will mention that 6 of the countries which are now graduating, Angola has been taken out of this. The other 4, Timor-Leste and Myanmar, they have been taken out of the list. So there is a forum, as it were, the CDP, which takes the decision with regard to graduation or recommending to the ECOSOC or not recommending. So there is a
Thank you. I don't see any hands now, so I would now come back to the panelists. So we have 3 more important speakers. So I would like to request now Dr. Devpriya Bhattacharya, Distinguished Fellow CPD, to make his special comments on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor. Excellency, distinguished members of the diplomatic community and international business, and fellow participants, colleagues, and friends from the media. and good afternoon to you all. I will start over in English, but at a certain point in time, may get into Bangla as well. We are discussing with the Honorable Minister that what would be his language of choice. So he would decide on his own on that, how to go about it. Let me first start by reminding you that the CPD's age is almost equal to the age of WTO. It is back in 1993, 92, when Mustafiz, myself, and some other colleagues and Famida referred to the fishery subsidy study, one of our earliest studies back in 94, 93, was that when we started off in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, anticipating that the GATT is transforming itself into WTO, and Bangladesh as a country of great promise and great challenges would transform itself and get ready for that. I would like to recognize that we were very much, indebted to some of our international development partners who came forward, and then we created the capacity in the CPD, and that was the time when we used to prepare policy briefs for the Ministry of Commerce. At that time, the WTO cell was not there. In fact, WTO cell was one of the 29 recommendations prepared by Mustafiz and myself from the Aid for Trade program regarding creation of this particular in 1998. That was our recommendation, and afterwards the WTO cell came into being and the development partners came in support. The other recommendation which came into being ours was the creation of the Foreign Trade Institute. That was also part of our recommendations, and we are so happy that European Union and others have come forward. And on our the CPD capacity building, the Canadian government was the leader over there. In fact, Canada took, I think, credit in the WTO General Council by mentioning that particular project which sustained in Dhaka for almost a decade regarding creating capacities in the LDCs in that way. So CPD has a history, and there was hardly any ministerial which has been missed by Mustafiz. Nowadays, I don't feel like, for various reasons, I deal with other issues globally. And Mustafiz had been a keen follower of this thing. So if there is any institutional memory regarding the WTO ministerials and other related issues, then Mustafiz is the most appropriate person to make the presentation today, what he has done, and he has shown his competence very correctly over here. So I would like to congratulate Mustafiz for that fantastic work he has carried on over the years and today. The other point I would like to make is that I have seen, being a witness to the fact that how the capacity within Bangladesh has grown over time over there. Look at the four people who have just made their comments. And it's one of the four very erudite people, very competent people, and those have been managing our external foreign trade relations so competently. And finally, they have been able to achieve both globally and nationally all these issues and bringing the private sector together. So I'd also like to compliment the foreign trade experts within our country, and particularly in the Commerce Ministry over time, and they have demonstrated their true color in many ways. And I would finally like to congratulate our Honorable Minister. And when I talk about the the domestic capacities which has grown, I would be totally amiss if I don't mention the senior secretary over here, sitting here. And no wonder the government has found it useful to continue with his services, and that's the right thing to do in many ways. And he has also shown that to give the leadership in this area in the recent past, as we have done. So the Honorable Senior Secretary of the Ministry of Commerce is over here. But the Honorable Minister of Commerce, he has led the delegation, and possibly secured one of the major achievements, particularly post-graduation support for 3 years. And I say this not because we come from the same area. I come from Tangal too. So not only because that just before he became, in his earlier incarnation of Member of Parliament, addressed our citizens platform and addressed the youth, and his quote is there, very much there. If you are looking for investment opportunities for the next 20 years, this is the country where you should come and invest. I think that's what I'm quoting him right. So I think we have over time to feel good about it, that we have created capacity, we have been very focused, and we have also secured some success in that. But now, given the time allowed to me, I will, as you know, I have my grandmother's principle. I don't mention more than 3 issues, and otherwise people will not remember much beyond the 3 issues. So what are the 3 issues? The first and foremost, what is the biggest success of this MC13? What is the biggest success? If you look at the international media, there are 2 words which have come very frequently in that. One, it is a limited success. Some of the people have said it is a qualified success. So I think both are correct in some ways. Some would say subdued success. So qualified success, subdued success, but limited success. But they could not avoid the word success. That is the point. So what is the success? The first and foremost success is that WTO has once again proven itself that it is an institution which is so much pertinent, which has to be there in this current context of global governance, if not global governance crisis. Even in this dire state, there were 2 new members which have become member of the WTO in this space. And who are these? These are the LDCs, Comoros and Timor-Leste. Comoros and Timor-Leste. I will come to them. They are graduating LDCs. At least 2 of them had been, 1 is still there. No, yes, 1 is still there. So this is the important thing. Post-COVID, the last one was in Geneva. They could not hold it outside. It has been held outside Geneva. That itself is a success. To finding a host organization is not so easy nowadays for international conferences. It also showed that notwithstanding the US-China tension, notwithstanding various kind of geostrategic, geographical tensions which we see nowadays, notwithstanding the Ukraine war, notwithstanding the tensions now in the Red Sea, we could hold this meeting. 166 members, and the membership has increased, and it has ended with a proper declaration. It did not end up, as you know, in other cases, when there is no consensus, it ends up with a chair summary, which means it's not a negotiated document. We really got something out of it over there. So if you want to tell me that, ask me what is it, I would say that there had been success. And in that sense, of course, our country has achieved certain points which we cannot ignore. I'll come to those. My second point is the architecture negotiation. WTO is an organization over the 30 years has come under severe pressure from various competing countries, various big trading nations, and that has really increased. Many of us, we thought that when China became part of the WTO system, then we will be able to internalize all these tensions inside the system. Unfortunately, that did not fully happen. And we have seen various kinds of unilateral measures which did not help the system, and it was bypassing the rule-based system in many cases with those unilateral measures. So reform of the WTO became very, very important. And the reform of the WTO became important also because the jewel in the crown of WTO architecture is its dispute settlement mechanism. Dispute settlement mechanism is the jewel in the crown. That jewel in the crown remains inoperative for the last 5 years, 6 years, because there is lack of judges in the appellate body. United States is yet to appoint its own nominee in the recent past over there. So dispute settlement mechanism remains quite inoperative. So reform of the WTO, also the transparency and the independence of the secretariat. It is a member-driven organization, so that has also become very, very important, and we would need that reform. A very limited, perfunctory lip service regarding reform has been done, and dispute settlement mechanism, we yet don't know when it will become again functional in the coming days. But we have seen a bit more in the architecture or in the alliances, particularly which are relevant for Bangladesh and for particularly at this moment. What is that? The rise of the plurilateral, and Professor Mustafiz has rightly said, Bangladesh should become part of the plurilateral discussion. Our honorable discussant also mentioned that we should become part of the discussion. Even if we do not become a negotiator or a demandeur, we should be observer at least. I think that is the way to go forward. That is where comes again, Professor Mustafiz has mentioned that Bangladesh has now multiple identity, and the multiple identity will demand persuasion of multiple interests in different ways. And we should be there because this is our future in various kinds of discussion over there. Ferdowsa rightly mentioned that one of the areas where we should be there is that plurilateral discussion on trade facilitation for development. That is a particular area where we should be very much there. This is something which should really promote the enabling environment within our country, and now logistics and investment and infrastructure development, and creating that level playing field or bringing in foreign direct investment over here will be critical in these cases. So that is there. But what else we have seen in these cases? We have seen the shifting alliances. The old North-South divide does not hold anymore in WTO. The old North-South divide does not hold in WTO. There are issues where big developing countries are having problems with the LDC positions quite often, whether it comes to subsidies, whether it comes to as net food importing countries, or any other issues, like you know all those issues. So what in WTO parlance, what we say, it is called the variable geometry. This is known as, in our parlance, it's the variable geometry. Along with the variable geometry comes the moving frontier. So the targets and the baselines and the thresholds, all these are also as such is moving. So this is something Bangladesh will have to play it rightly, because when there is increased geostrategic tension in a country, securing the trade interest is not so easy. The trade relationship overlaps. If it overlaps with your geostrategic tension, then it will be very difficult to make the most optimal choice which for this country at this particular moment. This is something which demands elaboration, and I hope and pray those who are the mandarins in our commerce ministry will look at it, and no wonder they will have to really have their notes compared with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if not the Prime Minister's office. The other thing which we have learned in this period through this WTO Ministerial is that the days of non-reciprocity is almost over. I think even partial reciprocity has to be there. That somebody will give us free, don't expect it anymore. There is some kind of reciprocity, even if it is, symbolic. That has to be done one way or another. That is there. And compliance issue will become more and more important for Bangladesh. I may ask the Honorable Senior Secretary of the Ministry of Commerce, notifications. We are lagging behind in notifications, and that will become a very, very critical issue, and particularly when the new trade review mechanism process comes to Bangladesh. I don't know when is the next one. TRM comes to Bangladesh, and that review, the notification issue will come up very importantly in our checklist in that way. So notification can be done without any cost. It demands a bit more, closer vigilance on it, and various line ministries have to collaborate in order to do that. There was a time, I remember, agriculture was the most laggard ministry at one point in time in notifications. So having said that, I won't go much on that. And the issue which the third issue I would like to talk about is about the LDC and Bangladesh. On the LDC and Bangladesh, although there we are rejoicing that we got 3 more extra years, it's a success, limited success. Why? But some of our negotiators, me included, Professor Mustafiz as well, started off with 12 years, isn't it? And at that time I said, 12 years is too much to ask. And in Geneva, the joke was, you want to have the cake and eat it too. You want to graduate and also keep all your preferences as well. So the issue on the LDCs on 3 years, I my expectation was it may go up to 6 years, maximum 5 years. Why 5 years? Because as you know, in the UN, this Committee for Development Policy, which Mustafa is referred to, where I sit, we do a triennial review every 3 years. So it has to be less than 6 years, at 5 years, something like that. But it ended up 3 years. But unpredictable 5 years for all time to sometime in the future is less useful than 3 years now we have concretely. I think concrete 3 years is better than possible 5 years. That is my position on this particular. And so that is very important. What is more important over here is that how do you use these 3 years? How do you use these 3 years will be very, very critical. Let me take a step back and see how we have dealt with it with our transition over here. The transition which we have done approach is based on the impact assessment. So what is the impact? Mustafis goes on mentioning $70 billion. How many? How many billion dollars? It's $2.5 billion, and 80% of all the LDC losses will be from Bangladesh. So what is the approach? The approach is, how do we really hold on to it? How do you really stick to it or compensate it? So the impact is only in terms of losing preferences. The impact issue is not about how do you achieve structural transformation. You see, the attitude is different over here. The moment you go impact based on preference loss, your whole idea is how you hold on to the preferences by hook or by crook. But if you have looked into our approach, CDP, UNCTAD, and others, we said it is only a milestone, not an end in itself. Then what is the real end? End is a much more diversified, productive, competitive economy. So you see, we have got it wrong. And possibly three years back, I supported that, but today I really regret that I really did not see through in the impact issue would have been how to make a more structurally transformed, diversified, competitive economy. That is the point. So otherwise, what happens? It happens, we become an incentive-addicted, preference-addicted economy. We support those who have been enjoying the benefits. I'm not naming any sector. Huh? You know which sector I'm referring to. So we don't really take out from them and cannot diversify them and also give the equal treatment to others. I don't know when was the last effective rate of protection study done in Bangladesh. I don't know how many of you remember the last effective rate of protection study in tariff. Anybody from the Tariff Commission remembers? I don't know. Huh? So we don't know really that the exporting sectors are really getting better protection than the domestic market oriented one, or they are being equal footing on this particular issue on that. So there is a lack of evidence and analysis in this case. So what I am trying to say, these 3 years should be transformed from this defensive attitude, holding on to preferences, to a much more proactive attitude of supporting the possibility of possible, new industries to create a much more diversified, competitive, and a prosperous economy. That is what needs to be done. If we go back after getting this 3 years extra, go back dancing into the old game, then these 3 years will not deliver anything to us at all. And that is what I would like to say. And I would also like to remind you the last point and say why I say this so important. Out of 45 LDCs, 35 are member of the WTO. 2 more new members have come in, and another 5 are in the mode of negotiations at this moment. Even country like Bhutan, which suspended its negotiation long time back during my days when I was in Geneva, and then it is going to resume along with its graduation, which has happened in December. So out of this 45 LDCs, at this moment, 18, if not 19, are in different stages of graduation. But you will be, no, I have spoken already 20 minutes, not 15. I'm finishing. Your arithmetic is not correct. So I'm finishing within a minute and a half. The issue is that out of this 15, only 4 of them are in good path. Bangladesh, Nepal, Laos, and Comoros. And the rest are in different sorts of problem. 336, 2 new cohorts are in the pipeline. For the good news is that at last, finally, African countries are coming up, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda. But what is important, there are countries which are almost 10 years back were recommended for graduation, but still not being able to get out of the group. And if the case of Angola, so Angola graduated on the issue on the income-only criteria. But Angola, what has happened to Angola can very well happen to Bangladesh. I'm not wishing for it. What is the reason? Angola had only one product to export. That is oil, fuel. And when the fuel price crashed, the country crashed as well. So if there is one message from Angola to Bangladesh, if, God forbid, anything happens with our garments industry, we will be like Angola. So that is the lesson we should take forward, that what is the transition we want to do? The transition is diversification. The transition is productivity growth. The transition is leveraging with new important policy instruments. What is the new policy instrument you are talking about? You have been mentioning TRIPS 66.2. We have been breaking our head on it for decades. Why it did not happen? Anything. Because it is written there, incentives will be provided for the transfer of technology. And nobody could really decide what type of incentives will be given, whether it was fiscal or trade or anything else. So the future, if you want to do that, implement the instruments which we will have to see is not only tariff, but also things like intellectual property right. Intellectual property right protection. We should be coming out from the defensive strategy and looking at it from a much more proactive approach. If we don't do that, Tangal Shari will be taken away. That is what is going to happen. I think that is the future which we look to. আমরা বাংলাদেশে এই যে 3টি বছর পেয়েছি, এই 3টি বছরকে সঠিকভাবে যদি আমরা ব্যবহার করতে না পারি, তাহলে কিন্তু এই 3টি বছরের কোনো দাম থাকবে না। এই 3টি বছরকে ব্যবহার করার সবচেয়ে বড় উপাদান হতে হবে বাংলাদেশে এই গার্মেন্টস সেক্টর নির্ভরতা থেকে বের হয়ে এসে আরেকটি বিকশিত এবং বহুমুখীকরণ অর্থনীতির ভিতরে আমাদের ঢোকা, এবং তাতে যেতে হবে শ্রমিকের উৎপাদনশীলতা, সেটাতে যেতে হবে আমাদের মাঠ পর্যায়ের বিভিন্ন ধরনের যে আমাদের দক্ষতা বৃদ্ধির বিষয় রয়েছে সেটার সাথে, এবং এটার সাথে যুক্ত করতে হবে আমাদের যে আধুনিক যে সমস্ত বিষয়াদি রয়েছে, এটা অর্থায়নটাও গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, আমাদের এখানে মেধাস্বত্ব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, এবং একই সাথে শ্রমিকের স্বার্থ, শ্রমের মানদণ্ড এগুলোও গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। সেহেতু আসুন আজকে এই আলোচনার ভিতর দিয়ে আমরা ওই আগামী যে বাড়তি 3টে বছর পেলাম সেটাকে সঠিকভাবে ব্যবহার করার পথরেখা যাতে তৈরি করতে পারি। আশা করি আজকে থেকে সেইটা একটা দিক আমরা এগিয়ে যেতে পারবো। ভালো থাকবেন আপনারা, ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhattacharya, for those important points. Now, I would like to request Mr. Tapun Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Minister of Commerce, for his remarks.
Honorable State Minister for Commerce, Mr. Hasanul Islam T2 MP, a very distinguished personality from CPD, and Excellency Ambassadors, other distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. Actually, I thought that I have to speak in Bangla, and I will describe the events, very complex theories and happenings that happened in Abu Dhabi.
It's the language of choice.
Because
Please
for us
feel-
it's very
yeah.
difficult, but I'll
No.
try in Bangla and also in English
Sure.
to elaborate
No.
some of the issues. Actually, not much has been left for me to say because first, Dr. Mustafizur Rahman has given a very excellent presentation, very extensive. And then all other panelists had their view, and what Dr. Devapriya Bhattacharya just said, that we have a very good team. We have been able to generate some of the best, trade experts in Bangladesh. So, and but I am not a trade expert, particularly with WTO. But what I have been able to do is that I have contributed a little bit to keep those experts with Ministry of Commerce. In some way or other, they are working with the Ministry of Commerce, with different organizations. So that is our asset. And we are fighting with those, ammunitions in so many forums. And of course, I have to recognize the contribution of our mission in Geneva. Our ambassador, Mr. Supir Rahman, and other colleagues there, they had played a critical role. And actually, what happens, we know that throughout the year, the negotiation continues in Geneva. So what we see in the ministerial conference, almost it a fait accompli. It is actually done earlier, then said again and again, and then we get some results. So I must, extend my congratulations and thanks to our mission in Geneva, our colleagues. And this year also we had a very agile young leader as HOD in Geneva, in Abu Dhabi, in discussion MC13. And he had participated in all the deliberations, all the discussions. And really we were impressed to see his energy and his, ability to catch very complex trade issues within very short time. Actually, I was really amazed to see his, absorption capacity with this sort of complex trade issues, international trade issues. And we had a discussion with Dr. Mustafizur Rahman and his colleague there. We had a session with our journalists, those who were covering the MC13. So we had a good time, but we had a tough time also. And actually, Dr. Devpro and Dr. Mustafa Abid Khan particularly said that I think MC13 has been a success for the graduating LDC country, you can say. For other developing country, there was not much thing. For developed country, I think it has been a failure. But for graduating LDC country, if we consider the duty-free, quota-free market access that actually decided on 23rd October last year, that has been approved by the ministers, then TRIPS non-violation, then capacity building and technical assistance provision, that is that was within the Annex 2, that has been recognized. And the e-commerce moratorium, I think e-commerce moratorium is also, from our point of view, we should say that it has been a success. And with fisheries subsidy, I think from seeing it from the viewpoint of developing country or LDC country, we can say it has been a success in the sense of blocking the agreement. Because it was such a tough discussion at the last moment. Actually, our honorable minister then departed for Dhaka, but the last extended day, we are fighting. And even in the midnight, after 12, I had to catch my plane from Abu Dhabi, but I tried to be there for the very last moment to fight it, so that because our interests were not included in the text at the very last moment when the main delegates departed the MC13. So that was a sort of, what should I say? It's a maybe strategy to dress it down to the last moment so that many delegates depart and very few would be there and they will have some sort of bargaining. So, but at the last moment also in the green room and also in the plenary, we raised our voice that the developing country, if they don't get their policy space, particularly the graduating LDC country, they were being largely discriminated. It has been described here. I think I would not like to prolong here, but very few issues I need to say also, that with regard to fishery subsidy, the last text included that the graduating LDC country will have 3 years, exemption, whereas the developing country were given 8 years. So it was utter discriminatory, because when a country graduates, he is a developing country. Then how could he get less than 8 years? And it was so absurd. I don't know how the the office, the WTO secretariat, those who makes typing and all this text, how did they uh, I mean uh, make this document and circulate it to all the delegates? So what I learned is that it seemed actually during the 4 days that ministerial conferences are likely war field, and this time it happened in that way, because everybody was taking their position, everybody was fighting with their interests, and nothing is coming out of that discussions. And there was time and again requests from the chair and also from the Director General WTO that we should try to deviate a bit from the positional level, because if we take our position and we say our deliberations, then what is the difference between the year-long discussion in Geneva and the MC13? It is the same, same thing is being told again and again. But even from those ashes, I should say that we have some success, and we need to work upon it to have our way forward. And those way forward has been described by Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, also eloquently described by Dr. Devapriya Bhattacharya, that from now on we need to really rely on our competitiveness, our skill development, our productivity, and the diversification of economy that we have been talking for long. Because we have the market access, duty-free market access in all the countries, in all the developed and developing countries, except USA, for long, long time. But have we been able to export our products except the RMG? Not much. We are exporting a lot of products, but very little amount, maybe $10 million, $100 million. We have only 4 products other than RMG that have crossed $1 billion threshold exports. So if we cannot diversify with our competency, with increasing productivity, with skill development, then we cannot compete. And then after the graduation, Bangladesh would face a lot of problems that Dr. Devapriya Bhattacharya has just mentioned. And in this regard, I can say that we are working, the National Committee on the LDC graduation, they have formulated so many recommendations, but whenever we want to make it happen, whenever we want to implement those reforms, those actions, then we see that it's very, very difficult to transition that economy from whatever we have been doing for last 30 years maybe. So bringing those changes and reforms in very critical time, in very difficult time that we have been experiencing last 3 years, that has very difficult time. And here comes the role of the development partners, the international organizations, to support the developing countries and the LDC graduated countries. So with this, I think I would like to conclude here, because if I want to discuss some of the issues as an witness in the MC13, it will take another 30 minutes. I think I should not go. I should not go there, but only 1 and 2 points is that on the JSI, because I should say some point on JSI. I think it's a big debate in Bangladesh. Many people are supporting that we should join. We should join and we should become party of the JSI, but there was also a strong opposition, because if we go there, theoretically we are weakening the multilateralism, so maybe Bangladesh if joined, but there would be always some other country who will oppose, and they will be marginalized. And in some time, what we see actually that lot of issues which are not at all related with the trade, international trade, that are increasingly drawn in the WTO sphere. I don't know why, maybe at a bargaining chip, because it's not that all issues has to be solved in the WTO. There are other UN bodies, there are other international and intergovernmental agencies So why bringing all the issues in WTO and paralyzing the discussion, negotiation, and everything? So there is a big issue. I think we need a lot more stakeholder consultation, lot more discussion at the national level. We had few discussions before going to MC13, but still, I think on bigger scale, I think we need to do a lot of discussion with our stakeholders, with our private sector, and we need to also capture the consequences that might arise, to become party of this JSI. On public stockholding, export restriction, and export subsidy, I think nothing has happened, but we raised our voices with regard to export restriction. This point we raised strongly, that for LDC and for NFIDC, there should be some provision that if the exporting countries impose export restriction, that those countries should fall outside those restrictions to secure their food security, which is a life and death security at some time. And with public stockholding also, we raised our voice that it's a public food policy issue and food security issue. So on those issues, we aligned with some of the developing countries. With some other issue, we could not align. But as we are graduating, what I felt in this MC13 is that now we need to align more with the developing countries, submissions beginning from the next MC, because negotiations are held in groups, not as an individual country. Nobody will call you if you are not aligned to some extent with some big groups, those who negotiate in Geneva throughout the year, and that groupings actually are called upon in the ultimate negotiation, that is in the green rooms, and when the final bargain are happened. So as we will of course sympathize, and we are also part of the LDC, we will continue to do so, but with an eye to that what is happening with the developing country group. So with this, I would like to conclude here. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to say something here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Mr. Tapon Kanti Ghosh, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce. Now, I would like to request our Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Ahsanul Islam Titu, Member of Parliament and the State Minister for Commerce, Government of Bangladesh, to make his remarks.
Thank you, Chair. Senior Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, distinguished CPD members, panelists, excellencies. First of all, I would like to thank CPD for inviting me as a chief guest here. And this is the first time Bangladesh, after returning from WTO, did not organize any press conference. And that was, I make a commitment to Dr. Mustafiz that your conference will be my press conference. So first of all, I would like to thank Mustafizur Rahman, the distinguished fellow, for preparing me for WTO during the meeting, before the meeting, and after the meeting. So, I think he deserves a sincere thanks from Ministry of Commerce, because we had two discussions, both of the discussion he was a participant, our preparation, what we will stand for, what will be stance on Bangladesh, and few of the distinguished panelists today also participated in all those sessions. Especially, I would like to thank my Geneva team and my WTO team in Ministry of Commerce, who really prepared me very, very well, because I got only 1 month time. I don't have a clue. And for me, this is the first time going to a WTO ministerial conference and representing country as a head of delegate. It was a big thing. Let me take some little bit of pride. I will go to Dr. Mustafiz's line. I just want to quote assessment of the outcome from Bangladesh perspective. There was a ministerial decision at MC13 should be seen as a welcome news by Bangladesh. At least we don't come empty hand. So thank you, Dr. Mustafiz. And same thing was echoed by another distinguished fellow, that It was a limited success, but I will consider it as a success for Bangladesh. And also, what we are preparing, I say I don't take it as a 3 years. 2019 is 5 years for me, because we have 2 years in our hand, and after graduate will be 3 years. And if we cannot utilize these 5 years properly, and that would be a failure on our side, not on WTO or anybody else. So we are taking preparation. We have different committees under the leadership of our senior secretary. Our WTO team is working, interministerial team also working, and I think we will overcome lot of obstacle, or lot of preferential treatment preference over these 5 years. Especially our team is working on bilateral FTAs, PTAs, CEPA, all the economic agreements. So we are working on that. In this note, I would like to thank His Excellency Ambassador from China. He organized a bilateral meeting with Minister of Commerce of China, His Excellency Mr. Wang Wanto. And it was I will say that like groundbreaking, because we met 6 different minister, including Chinese minister, and we have a long discussion, fruitful discussion, and there is an outcome. And I would like to again thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of China, that he already forwarded me a letter, 1, 2, 3 outcomes of our meeting. Thank you. And also we met with Minister of Trade and Industry of Singapore, Mr. Kan. We met with the Japanese State Minister of Economy, Mr. Kozuki. We met with the South Korean Minister, His Excellency Mr. Chong, and also we met with the German Secretary of State of Federal Ministry, Mr. Philip, and last not the least, our neighboring biggest country, Ministry of Commerce of Industry from India, Mr. Piyush Goyal. And it was all very fruitful discussion for bilateral trade and commerce, and how we will progress in the future days after this WTO. One good thing I learned, I think I want to share with you, is Bangladesh earned respect in WTO meetings. Our Geneva team worked very hard, and when we bilaterally discuss or side meeting discussion, everybody, especially we led LDC, as you all know, that Bangladesh is a lead from LDC, also a lead of LDC graduating countries. So we don't represent only ourselves, we lead the LDC nations in the WTO discussion. Also the African nation, we have a very close contracts. So these are the tactic we use there, make ourselves important. And especially as distinguished fellow, Dr. Devopriyo mentioned about DSM matters. We had a position, and surprisingly, 5 countries proposed the DSA settlement issue, and we hold a position. And we were welcomed by few of the countries that we all should hold our line and stick to it. And that was make me very proud that as a country from LDC, a graduating LDC, we hold our position and appreciated by so many different countries. 30, 35 countries come and congratulate us that hold your position, and then the negotiation will go to the next level. If we compromise, and this thing will not move on. We are looking forward to WC13. Another one thing politically, I think we should understand, there would be a lot more outcomes than what we expect in WC13. But one reason, I don't think anybody mentioned, 60 country is going to have an election in this year. I was not there, sorry. So this was another reason that everybody was holding their position and line, or else the convergence will be more. There are more outcomes we could expect from WT13, but because European Union is going election in May, India is going election in May, US is going election in December, and you know the polarized countries. But we have good outcomes. Now we have to take this. I think it is an excellent paper by Dr. Mustafiz for our WTO team, and we should work more closely with not only CPD, also the distinguished panelists who have the knowledge, and we can take this knowledge as our future work strategy, so that we know where to take our position and how to achieve it. And in WTO meeting, one thing I really appreciate, we are going through a very challenging economic time. But in one platform, as Dr. Devopriya mentioned, that when a single issue is addressed by Russia, US, China, Germany, European Union, Japan, China, everybody, and they are, clearly giving their, positions. So you understand, as a LDC or graduating LDC country, we understand that in the total trade and commerce where it is leading us. So, negotiation is a skill. I think we lack in that skill. We need more negotiator, not only for WTO, also for our FTA, PTA, and economic trade agreements. We need to develop our skill for this negotiation, and it is a give and take situation. When you are important, people will come and give you something in exchange of support or in exchange for few things. And that's what 5 days we are there, and our team really worked hard. We don't miss a session, we don't miss a single discussion, and we were part of the whole process. Though I have to come one day because the extended day, I left our senior secretary with a able leadership, but he could not conclude also. He have to fly back, so we have to depend on our Geneva team. So I don't want to go through the details because there is a comprehensive analysis of all these things. I would just say a few words for our Bangladeshi news media, those who are here, and a lot of discussion. Already we have যে আমাদের বাংলাদেশে এবার MC13 এর যে কনফারেন্সটা আমরা গিয়েছি WTO-র, এটা আসলে আমাদের জন্য অনেকগুলি চ্যালেঞ্জ ছিল, এবং সবচেয়ে বড় চ্যালেঞ্জ ছিল যে আমরা আমাদের ট্রেড অ্যান্ড কমার্সটাকে সামনের দিকে কিভাবে নিয়ে যাব। এবং সেই চ্যালেঞ্জটার মধ্যে একটা ছিল যে আমরা কতদিন সময় পাবো এলডিসি থেকে গ্র্যাজুয়েট হয়ে। বিভিন্ন সময় বিভিন্ন টাইম লাইন ছিল, এবং এখন আমরা একটা ফার্ম কমিটমেন্ট, এবং এটা এগ্রিড কমিটমেন্ট যে 3 ইয়ার্স ফ্রম গ্র্যাজুয়েশন, মানে 2026 থেকে 2029 পর্যন্ত পাবো। এবং কি পাবো, দ্য ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ অলসো ভেরি ভেরি ক্লিয়ার ইন 2 প্যারাগ্রাফ। এটা কিন্তু কমপ্লিট আর্টিকেল 24 এর ডিসপিউট অ্যান্ড সেটেলমেন্ট আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং ফর এ পিরিয়ড অফ 3 years after the date on which the decision of UN General Assembly graduating member from LDC category become effective. Effective হওয়ার UN তারপরে থেকে 3 বছর এটা। এবং কি পাবো সেটাও বলা আছে, on specific technical assistance and capacity building provided under WTO technical assistance and training plan for a period of 3 years. So জিনিসগুলো এখন স্পেসিফিক, আমাদের এই জিনিসগুলো নিয়ে আমাদেরকে সামনে কাজ করতে হবে আর কি। উই হ্যাভ টিমস, উই হ্যাভ এক্সপার্ট। এখন এটাকে আমরা কিভাবে কাজে লাগাবো, এটা হলো আমাদের বিষয়, যে আমরা কতটা নিজেদেরকে প্রিপেয়ার করতে পারবো। ডক্টর দেবপ্রিয় অনেকগুলি সাজেশন দিয়েছেন। আমরা মনে করি যে আমাদের সরকার, মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনার নেতৃত্বে আমরা কিন্তু কাজ শুরু করেছি। উনি আমরা দায়িত্ব নেওয়ার পরেই প্রথম আমাদেরকে বলেছেন যে এক্সপোর্ট ডাইভার্সিফিকেশন করতে হবে, এবং লেদার এবং জুট, ফার্মাসিউটিক্যাল, 3টা সেক্টরকে আমরা অনেক বেশি জোর দিচ্ছি। এবং সাথে এই বছর আমরা হস্তশিল্পকে আমরা বর্ষপণ্য হিসেবে ঘোষণা করেছি, এবং এটাকেও আমরা জোর দিতে চাচ্ছি। বিকজ এখানে নাম্বার হয়তো অনেক বিলিয়ন্স অফ ডলার আসবে না, বাট আমাদের দেশের অনেক এমপ্লয়মেন্ট ক্রিয়েট হবে। এবং আমরা একটা ক্যাম্পেইন শুরু করতেছি, আমি আশা করি সিপিডিকে আমাদের সাথে পাবো। একটি গ্রাম একটি পণ্য হিসাবে, 1 village 1 product, and few of the excellency different ministry of Japanese minister was also very keen about 1 village 1 product, and there are other interested parties also they want to participate. So আমরা যদি এই সাকসেসফুলি এই জিনিসটা করতে পারি তাহলে কি হবে যে ওই যে বললো জিআই প্রোডাক্ট আমাদের প্রোডাক্ট কেউ নিয়ে যেতে পারবে না। আমরা সারা বছর কাজ করতে চাই আমাদের গ্রামে গঞ্জে জিআই প্রোডাক্ট এবং ক্রাফটম্যান যারা আমাদের হস্তশিল্পের শিল্পী বা কারিগর এদেরকে আমরা তুলে আনতে চাই। আমাদের হস্তশিল্প অনেকদিন নিয়ে কাজ করতেছি কিন্তু এই কারিগর এবং জিআই লোকেশন এটাকে আমরা হাইলাইট করে এই একটি গ্রাম একটি পণ্যকে আমরা নিয়ে কাজ করব। আমাদের মন্ত্রণালয়ের একটি কমিটি হয়েছে এবং আরো রিসোর্স এবং এক্সপার্ট প্যানেল আমরা নিয়ে এই মাসে আমরা এটাকে লঞ্চ করব যাতে সারা বাংলাদেশ থেকে এই উৎপাদিত পণ্যগুলি জিআই পণ্যগুলি আমরা এটাকে রেজিস্ট্রেশন দিতে পারি, এদের মার্কেটিং ইজি করতে পারি, এদের টেকনিক্যাল অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট দিতে পারি, এদের ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল সাপোর্ট দিতে পারি। সবচেয়ে বড় কথা আমাদের মিনিস্ট্রি অফ কমার্সের যেটা প্ল্যাটফর্ম এটাকে আমরা একটা মেলা বা এই যে আমরা শোকেস করা দেশে এবং বিদেশে এবং ই কমার্সে আমরা একটা প্ল্যাটফর্ম আমরা দিব এবং এতে আমাদের যেটা হবে ওমেন এম্পাওয়ারমেন্ট হবে এবং সেই সাথে আমাদের তৃণমূলের যে বিভিন্ন প্রোডাক্ট আমরা শুধু কিন্তু হস্তশিল্প না, মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী এই একটা বিষয়ে শুধুমাত্র আমাদের মৌখিক নির্দেশনাই দেন নাই, ঘোষণাই করেন নাই, উনি 2 পাতা নোট আমাদের জন্য দিয়েছে যে এখানে খাদ্য তাকেও এই ইয়ের একটি গ্রাম একটি পণ্যতে নিয়ে আসা। খাদ্য কি আচার হতে পারে, পিঠা হতে পারে, বিভিন্ন জিনিস যে আমাদের যেমন টাঙ্গাইলের চমচম আছে, যে কোনো জিনিস আমরা এই খাদ্যটাকেও এর মধ্যে নিয়ে আসব। আমার কথা বলার উদ্দেশ্য এটা যে আমরা উই আর প্রিপেয়ারিং আওয়ারসেলফ ফর ডাইভার্সিফাইড এক্সপোর্ট অ্যান্ড ডাইভার্সিফাইড প্রোডাক্ট এবং যে বিষয়গুলি নিয়ে কথা বলা হয়েছে WTOর ওগুলা নিয়ে আমরা সেমিনারে হয়তো কথা বলবো বিকজ এই আউটপুটটা দেশের মানুষের জন্য খুব বেশি উপকারী হবে না। আমার কাছে যেটা মনে হয়েছে WTOর মিটিং এ যে এটা কিন্তু খুব স্পেশালাইজ স্কিল ইউ রিকোয়ার্ড, খুব স্পেশালাইজ স্কিল এবং টেকনিক্যাল নলেজ দরকার এবং লিগ্যাল কম্পিটেন্স দরকার। যে আমাদের একটা শব্দ একটা দাড়ি কমা সেমিকলম আগে পরে হলে এটার চেঞ্জ মিনিং চেঞ্জ হয়ে যায় এবং আমার মনে হয় যে এখানে আমাদের লিগ্যাল এক্সপার্ট ইকোনমিক এক্সপার্টের সাথে সাথে লিগ্যাল এক্সপার্টের আমার মনে হয় দরকার হবে বিকজ আমরা সামনে যখন যাব যখন ডেভেলপিং নেশন হিসাবে তখন আমাদের কিন্তু এই ডিসপিউটগুলো নিয়ে কথা বলতে হবে। আমাদের অনেকগুলি ডিসপিউট ছোটখাটো আছে সেগুলো নিয়েও কথা বলতে হলে আমাদের যে লিগ্যাল টিম দরকার সেই টিমটা আমি এখনো পাই নাই, আমার মন্ত্রণালয়ে আমি পাই নাই। আমি সিপিডির সাহায্য নিব তাদের কাছেও যদি থাকে বিকজ এই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ড্রাফটিং এবং এই কাজগুলা করার জন্য অনেকগুলা স্কিল প্রয়োজন হয়। আগামীকাল রমজান, সো কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে মাগরিবেরই হবে, এভরিবডি ইজ রেডি ফর দ্যাট। সো এগেইন থ্যাংক ইউ ফর দিস অ্যারেঞ্জমেন্ট সিপিডি বিকজ আপনারা এই প্ল্যাটফর্মটা তৈরি করে দিয়েছেন এবং আমরা আলাদা করে আর কোনো ব্রিফিং দেই নাই। আপনাদের যে অফিসিয়ালি যে ইটা দিয়েছেন আমার মনে হয় যে আমাদের যারা আছেন WTO টিমে এবং যারা সাংবাদিক ভাইরা আছেন এই আউটকামসটাকে আমরা লিমিটেড সাকসেস বলি অথবা আমরা কোয়ালিফাইড সাকসেস বলি। ইট ইজ এ সাকসেস। প্রথমবার বাংলাদেশ একেবারে প্রথমবারের মতো টিম লিডার হিসেবে শূন্য হাতে না ফিরে আসাটা একটা বড় পাওনা এবং অল ক্রেডিট গোজ টু our expert especially who have prepared. CPD was one of the key and also our WTO team এবং আমাদের জেনেভা টিম। স্পেশাল থ্যাঙ্কস টু আওয়ার এবল লিডার আমাদের সিনিয়র সেক্রেটারি তপন কান্তি ঘোষ যার নেতৃত্বে আমাদের পুরো টিমগুলা কাজ করেছে এবং অনেক দিন ধরে উনি কাজ করেছে বলে এই ট্রানজিশনটা আমাদের জন্য অনেক সহজ হয়েছে। আমি সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি, কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাচ্ছি। স্পেশাল থ্যাঙ্কস টু এক্সেলেন্সিজ those who are participating in this conference. I think it's important for you and for us and for the whole world totally because WTO is not for one nation, it is for 166 nations. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, Honorable State Minister, Mr. Ahsanul Islam T2 MP, for your valuable remarks. I think we have heard from his, personal experiences how Bangladesh has done at the WTO Ministerial recently held. I think after this we don't have anything to say. I see people are very, keen to wrap up, and we would like to close here, but there is a slight refreshment for you outside this room. I would like to thank once again each and every one of you, our distinguished panelists, guests, and also the participants and friends from the media. Have a good evening.